Hey loves, it's Luna. Before we dive in, don't forget to tap that subscribe button and join our little corner of light here at the Gender Diary. This is a space for stories about identity, self-discovery, and the quiet power of love. Now, let me tell you about the day everything changed for me. They say every home has its own kind of sound. Some hum with joy, some echo with laughter, some just breathe quietly. Ours used to hum too, until Dad passed away. After that, even the air felt heavy. Every footstep sounded like an apology. Mom drifted through the house like a ghost, always somewhere between doing and remembering. And me? I didn't know how to reach her. The house that once overflowed with Dad's awful puns and Sunday pancakes became a museum of silence. But one morning, something shifted. Mom caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, and she smiled. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen since before the funeral. That same week, she decided to host a little sleepover for some neighborhood girls. Riley, Zoe, and Grace. They were my age, full of laughter and wild energy, the kind that made the walls feel alive again. Mom wanted the sound of life back in our home. That night, after the girls had taken over the living room, Mom knocked on my door. She was holding a small box tied with a pink ribbon, her eyes soft but uncertain. "I have something special for you," she said. I unwrapped it, and inside was fabric. Not just any fabric. It shimmered under the light, deep royal blue velvet with gold embroidery. It was a ballet outfit, beautiful, elegant, alive. "Try it on," she whispered, "just for fun." The girls were giggling in the hallway, cheering me on. So, I did. The moment I looked in the mirror, I froze, because what I saw staring back wasn't wrong. It wasn't weird. It was beautiful. For the first time in months, Mom smiled. Really smiled and said softly, "You look beautiful, sweetheart." And just like that, laughter returned to our house. After that night, she kept bringing me little things. A ribbon, a skirt, a soft pair of leggings. She called it our little project. At first, I told myself I was doing it for her, to make her happy again. But the truth, every time I dressed up, something inside me felt peaceful, familiar, seen. It wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about finally meeting a version of myself that had been waiting in the shadows all along. Then one morning, Mom sat on my bed with a dress folded neatly beside her. She smiled and said, "Get ready for class." "Class?" I blinked. "Ballet," she said. "You're joining Riley and the girls." My heart nearly exploded from nerves. But when I saw her eyes, that sparkle of hope, I couldn't say no. That first ballet class? Terrifying, but magical. The mirrors, the light, the music, and me, standing there in royal blue, finally feeling like I belonged somewhere. When I caught Mom's reflection in the doorway, her eyes were shining. I realized something. Maybe this wasn't just healing me. Maybe it was healing us. Over time, the house changed again. Music came back. Laughter came back. I'd twirl in the living room while Mom clapped and cheered, just like old times. Riley, Zoe, and Grace became like sisters. They taught me how to braid hair, how to blend makeup, how to be brave enough to show up as myself. And through all that, between mascara and memories, Mom and I learned how to breathe again. One night, sitting together on the couch after practice, I asked her, "Do you think Dad would be disappointed in me?" She took my hand and said, "No, Luna, he'd be proud. Because you're not pretending, you're becoming." And that broke me in the best way. Not every journey is easy. There were whispers, stares, doubts, but Mom never wavered. She let me explore, fall, and rise again, all on my own terms. Looking back now, that blue tutu wasn't just fabric and thread, it was love. It was her way of saying, I see you, I love you, and I'm not afraid of who you're becoming. That night didn't just change my reflection, it changed our lives. So if you're listening to this right now and you're standing at the edge of who you are, take a breath. Step forward. You deserve to see yourself in full color. Ballet classes became my sanctuary. At first, I thought I'd always be the quiet one in the back, the one trying not to draw attention. But dance has this strange way of revealing who you are, even when you try to disappear. Every movement started feeling less like imitation and more like expression. My body stopped asking for permission and started remembering something ancient: grace, softness, power. Then one afternoon, our teacher announced something that made my stomach twist: a showcase. Every student was to perform a small solo piece in front of friends and family. And when she looked right at me and said, "Luna, I think you should do the opening number," my heart almost leapt out of my chest. One to know, I wanted to say no, to fade back into the safety of the group. But when I told Mom, she just smiled that quiet, knowing smile and said, "You were born to do this, love. You just forgot for a while." So we practiced. Every evening after dinner, I'd clear the living room floor and dance while she watched from the couch, her eyes following every turn. Sometimes she'd hum softly, the same tune Dad used to whistle while cooking pancakes. It felt like the three of us were together again somehow, stitched together by rhythm and memory. The night of the showcase arrived. The stage lights were blinding. My hands shook as I waited behind the curtain. Dressed once again in royal blue, the same color that started it all. When the music began, everything else fell away. No fear, no doubt, just movement. Each step, each spin was a conversation with the person I used to be and the one I was still becoming. And when I looked out into the audience, I saw Mom, tears glistening, but smiling so wide. That smile, it anchored me. When the music ended, the applause came like a wave, but the loudest sound wasn't the clapping, it was the quiet inside me, finally at peace. After the show, backstage was chaos: hugs, laughter, confetti. And then a little girl came up to me, maybe 8 or 9, holding her mom's hand. She looked up and said, "I liked your dance. You looked happy." That tiny sentence hit harder than any applause, because that's what I wanted. Not to be perfect, not to be brave, just to be happy. That night, Mom and I sat in the car in silence, the city lights reflecting off the windshield. She reached over, squeezed my hand, and said, "I think your dad would have cried tonight." I laughed through my tears. "You think?" She nodded. "Oh, absolutely. The man couldn't even handle a puppy commercial." We both laughed until the quiet didn't feel heavy anymore. Since then, the mirror doesn't scare me. It's no longer a question mark. It's a reminder that who I am isn't a costume or a phase. It's art, it's honesty, it's me. And maybe that's what becoming really is. Not about choosing sides or labels, but about finding peace in your own reflection. High school, that word alone could make anyone's stomach twist, right? New people, new rules, and suddenly everyone seems to have an opinion about who you are. For me, it wasn't just about fitting in. It was about existing without shrinking. Mom had started calling me Luna more often by then. At home, it felt natural, warm, safe. But at school, I was still him to everyone else. Every roll call, every locker whisper, every glance in the hallway reminded me how fragile my little bubble of comfort really was. Every glance in the hallway. I still remember the first day I wore something that felt like me to school. A soft cardigan, light makeup, a ribbon in my hair. Nothing bold, just honest. The hallway fell quiet when I walked in. You know that kind of silence, the heavy, watching kind. Some kids whispered, some laughed, and a few smiled. One of them was Riley. She had been with me since that first sleepover years ago. She just walked up, linked her arm through mine, and said, "You look beautiful. Now let's go be late for class together." That moment, it saved me. But not every day was easy. There were cruel jokes, teachers who stumbled over my name, classmates who looked right through me, like I was invisible or too visible, depending on the day. And yet every night I came home and saw Mom waiting in the kitchen with tea and open arms. No matter how bruised my spirit felt, she had a way of stitching it back together with quiet love. One night, I asked her, "Mom, do you ever get tired of defending me?" She smiled, that same patient, gentle smile, and said, "Luna, I don't defend you because I have to. I defend you because you're worth protecting." That sentence sank into my bones. Months later, our school announced a talent showcase. I wasn't planning to perform. Too much attention, too much risk. But Riley wasn't having it. She grabbed my hand and said, "You healed your house with dance once. Maybe it's time to heal this one too." So I signed up. And night of the show, my hands were shaking again, just like that first ballet performance years ago. But when the music started, I remembered who I was. Each movement was softer, braver, freer. The lights blurred, the room faded. It was just me and the rhythm of everything I'd survived. When the last note ended, there was silence, then applause, louder than I'd ever heard before. And right there in the front row, Mom, tears in her eyes, whispering my name, Luna. And next morning, something incredible happened. People smiled at me in the hallway. Not everyone, but enough. A few girls from my class stopped me to say, "Your dance was beautiful." And one boy, quiet, kind, just looked at me and said, "You're really brave." That was the moment I realized something powerful. I didn't need everyone's approval. I just needed my own peace. It's been years since then, but I still think about that girl in the hallway, the one holding her breath, afraid to be seen. And I want to tell her, you did it. You survived. You became someone you can love. After that school showcase, something changed. Not overnight, but slowly, like sunlight creeping through closed curtains. People started calling me by my name more. Not everyone got it right, and not everyone wanted to. But the ones who did, they made the world feel a little safer. And that's when I met Eli. He wasn't loud or flashy. He was the kind of person who noticed quiet things, like when someone changed their nail color, or when a smile didn't quite reach their eyes. He sat behind me in art class, always sketching, always humming under his breath. The first time we really talked, it was because he dropped his pencil, and somehow that turned into a 2-hour conversation about everything from old cartoons to how neither of us liked gym class. So, weeks passed. He'd wait for me after ballet practice, walking me home halfway, pretending it was on his route. It wasn't. He'd bring snacks, crack terrible jokes, and, most importantly, never treated me like a secret. One afternoon, as we sat on the school steps, he said quietly, "You know, you're different when you talk about dancing. You light up." I laughed. "Different how?" He shrugged. "Like you stopped trying to be brave. You just are." Something about that stayed with me. A few days later, he handed me a folded piece of paper, a sketch. It was me, mid-spin, wearing my royal blue tutu, the one from years ago. But the look on my face, it wasn't fear or confusion. It was joy. And underneath it, he'd written, "You look exactly like yourself." I don't think anyone had ever said something that simple, that honest, that kind, and it broke me in the most beautiful way. He just looked at them and said, "Respect her." Her. I don't think he even realized what he'd done, but I did. That word felt like 1,000 stars bursting in my chest. Her. It was the first time someone outside my home used it without hesitation, without making it sound like a favor, just truth. That night, when I got home, I told Mom. She smiled, that quiet, knowing smile, and said, "I told you. Love finds its way to honesty." And she was right. Because love, in its purest form, isn't about labels or perfection. It's about recognition. It's about someone looking at you and saying, "I see you. I'm not afraid of that." Eli and I didn't end up together forever, and that's okay. Sometimes people come into your life not to stay, but to help you arrive where you were meant to go. He was the person who helped me see that I didn't need permission to exist, that being seen, really seen, was possible. And for that, I'll always be grateful. After graduation, I left my hometown for college, a new city, a chance to start fresh. But starting over doesn't erase everything you've been. It just gives you new space to grow. For the first time, I introduced myself as Luna without hesitating. No explaining, no apologizing. Just, "Hi, I'm Luna." And the world didn't end. People smiled, shook my hand, asked about my major, as if being me was the most natural thing in the world. It was small, but it was freedom. Still, there were lonely nights. Even in a crowd, you can feel invisible when no one really knows what it took for you to exist. One night, scrolling through old photos on my phone, I saw that picture Eli drew years ago. The one of me, mid-spin, radiant and fearless. And suddenly, I wanted to tell that story, not just to remember it, but to release it. So I opened my laptop, hit record, and just talked. No script, no makeup, just me. I spoke about Dad, about Mom and the blue tutu, about what it felt like to be seen for the first time, about learning that gender isn't a costume. It's a conversation between your heart and your reflection. When I uploaded that first video, I almost deleted it right after. But I didn't. And then something wild happened. People found it. People heard it. Comments started flooding in. I thought I was alone. "Your mom sounds amazing." I cried through the whole thing. That's when I realized I wasn't just telling my story. I was telling ours. Within months, the Gender Diary became more than a project. It became a community, a space where people could breathe, share, cry, laugh together. And for the first time, I felt like everything I'd gone through had a purpose. Every whisper, every tear, every brave moment, it all led here. Silence. One evening, Mom visited my tiny college apartment. We sat on the floor, surrounded by camera equipment and ring lights, eating cheap noodles. She looked around and said softly, "I think your dad would have subscribed." We both laughed until we cried. Then she said something that still lives in my chest. "You took our pain and turned it into light." And I realized maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting, but transforming. Now, every time I upload a video, I picture that scared kid from years ago, the one who thought the world would never understand her. And I tell her, "Look, love, you did it. You became someone who helps others see themselves." So, if you're listening right now, wherever you are, whoever you are, know this. You don't have to be fearless to begin. You just have to begin. The rest comes with time, with love, and with the courage to be honest. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments, what's one thing you wish the younger you could hear today? Because your words, yes, yours, might be the light someone else needs tonight. Until next time, I'm Luna, and this isn't just my diary anymore, it's ours.